In this video, we will show you how to replace your four-wheel drive front axle locker actuator on this Ram 1500. This will be mounted to your front axle. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Safely make your way under the front of the vehicle. Looking at the front differential housing, you're going to find your four-wheel drive actuator. To start removing the actuator, you're going to find you have an electrical connector over towards the passenger side of the actuator. To disconnect this, you're going to find that you have a red locking tab up along the top. To dislodge that, I like to use either a pick or a small screwdriver, and we'll gently pull that away from the actuator. Just going to make your way under there and gently pry. There we are. You can see it slide out and away now. After you have that slid away, you want to reach up into that same area. There's a small squeeze tab that you can press in and then dislodge this. If you have to pry it out of the way, just be extremely careful not to cause any damage to the electrical connector or the actuator. Once that is disconnected, a quick inspection for corrosion, of course. This one looks fine. We'll set it aside. Now, continuing on from here, you're going to find that you have four 12mm headed mounting bolts. There's two down along the bottom, and then there's another two up along the top area, pretty much in the same locations as the lower mounting bolts. Before you start removing these, make sure you have a collection receptacle under this area so you can collect and recycle any fluid appropriately. I'm going to start with the two upper mounting bolts. Those are a little bit harder to gain access to. There's our first one. A quick inspection of the mounting hardware as you continue, replace as necessary. It's time for the two lower mounting bolts. Fluid may come out of this area. As you remove the final mounting bolts, make sure you're holding onto the actuator so it does not fall down and potentially hurt you. Now, as we start to pull this away, you will find on the actuator itself, it has a forked area. You're going to have to try to wiggle this and maneuver it to pull it out and away from the differential and that power steering rack. There it is, friend. Now, before we continue with the installation, let's have a quick look inside this area here. You're going to find that you have a small locking sleeve that should be able to move side to side, locking the two axles in with each other. Now, for this, if you were to go ahead and pivot that right front tire just a tiny bit here, typically you will be able to get those axles to align, and this should be able to slide over both the areas, locking them in. Essentially, we're just confirming that it can move freely, as it should. This groove where my screwdriver is sitting is where the actuator fork will sit. Now, with that said, and we're in the unlocked position, go ahead and clean up the mounting base on that differential housing where your actuator will sit. We want to make sure there's no pre-existing gasket or miscellaneous debris in this area. All right, let's get ready to install that actuator. We're going to be focusing on the fork that's on the inboard side. This is the area that goes onto that sleeve, right inside that groove that I just mentioned about. As we bring this in, we'll make sure that that's aligned, and we'll also align our mounting bolt ports. With everything properly aligned, it's time for the four mounting bolts. For these, go ahead and start them in by hand so you're sure you are not cross-threading them into the wrong positioning. After they're all started in, go ahead and snug them up. They're all started in. Let's snug them up and torque them to 21 foot-pounds. When doing this, I'm going to do it in a crisscross manner. Let's go around one more time just to confirm everything's properly torqued and seated. Now it's time for the electrical connector. Once we do press this in and we hear a click, we're going to take that red locking tab and slide it all the way down towards that four-wheel drive actuator, locking it in. A little tug here. Let's press that red locking tab in. One more tug, just confirming it is properly secured. It should be able to slide around, but definitely not come off of there. Once you've completed that, go ahead and clean up any mess, and we'll make our way over to fill the front differential. Now, since when you take down the actuator, you do lose some fluid, you want to make sure you top it off. To top it off, you're going to make your way over to the fill plug, which is located along the front of the differential here. We'll be using an 8mm Allen head socket to remove this plug. A quick inspection of that, set it aside. The fluid you should be using for your front differential is 7585 GL5 gear oil. We'll take the tip of this and start putting it into the port. Some of it may spill out. We have our collection receptacle under this area. Essentially, you want to continue filling this until you can see a steady trickle of fluid coming out of this. Let's just keep adding here. Let it run down afterward. We have our trickle of fluid. Let's go ahead and close this off, clean our mess around this port. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. The next thing you want to do is make your way out from under the vehicle. Take your vehicle for a road test, test the functionality, and then double check for leaks. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.